In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, 3 brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Bryan, Frye, Chad Robinson, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome, all you lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, the podcast where we watch movies, then talk about them. I am your host, Chad Robinson, replacing Russell Guest today because he got a girl pregnant. It was his wife. Congratulations to them and the newborn baby, but they need some time off. But the good news is, joining me today is my good friend and co-host, Bryan Frye. Bryan, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Very good. And with us today, Bryan, mutual friend, returning co-host, Josh Evans. Josh, how are you?
I'm great. Glad to be here, guys.
Right. And to remind you guys, when you last heard Josh, he's back by popular demand, The Never-Ending Story.
Oh.
I really enjoyed that episode. I wasn't on it, but that was a great one to listen to. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, go back and download The Never-Ending Story. The Swamp of Sadness, that was some of my favorite commentary.
I've been singing the songs ever since.
So we're gonna get to know you, or for those that have heard that episode, we're gonna find out a little bit more about you, Josh. So we'll start off with an easy question. What was the last movie you saw?
Well, the last movie I saw was I was scrolling through Hulu, and I stopped and watched a really interesting movie called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
Oh, man.
I own that.
You own that? Yeah.
I own that. Yeah.
It was a pretty solid movie. I have to say. I don't think I have to watch it again, but I'm glad I did. Very unique.
So does the title pretty much sum up the movie?
Yeah. Kills Hitler and then the Bigfoot. Spoiler alert.
All right. Very good. I'm all for spoiling everything in the title. That's great.
It's basically a movie telling you exactly how to mess with Sasquatch.
Yeah.
It's one giant Jack Link's commercial. Okay. So what was your first horror movie?
Well, the first one I remember watching, and the one that really messed me up as a kid, was actually Gremlins.
Oh, I love Gremlins.
I do too now. But it terrified me as a kid. It was Gremlins, and then I also was really terrified of Critters from the movie Critters.
Oh, I love that one too.
Yeah, I do now. And now I go back and I rewatch Gremlins around Christmas every year.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the first one I really remember watching.
So what age were you when this messed you up? Because I have an ongoing debate with my wife of when it's appropriate to show my 3-year-old dog. It's 3.
No, it's definitely not 3. I probably was maybe 5. I think it came out in '84, same year I was born. So I was probably 5 or 6. But I remember for a few years I slept with the covers around the edge of the bed because I thought that they were underneath there.
Oh, so no blenders or anything for you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good one. I love Critters as well. Check that out. And finally, last question. What is a movie that you like, but most people probably do not?
Well, I think that Frye could probably guess what this one is because we were roommates a long time ago, and it actually came up when we were preparing for this very podcast. Could you not do this movie? And that was House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh,
yeah. I love it. I love it, and I love the other movies. And I made the mistake of telling my dad he should watch. He wanted a good scary movie, and I told him to check it out. And he reacted predictably. It was, but yeah, I like it. It's different. It's unique, and that's the one. And I like the follow-ups too.
there is a less than 1% chance Rob Zombie will listen to our podcast, but if he did, we haven't been very kind to his movies. He won't listen to it for very long. But
No,
hey,
I
we
think
have
he'll
someone on
be.
here, Mr. Zombie.
I feel like it would be very complimentary to him to hear that all I wanted to do after watching that movie was go to church. I think he would take that.
I think
as
that's
a
what he was
compliment.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Devil's Rejects, that was pretty good too. And its own, it's exactly what it wants to be.
There's a lot of people after Sid Haig's death that are going and checking out Captain Spaulding.
Yeah, one of the greatest characters he came up with. Like, Captain Spaulding was amazing.
He didn't really hook me with one until Lords of Salem.
Yeah. They had another one that's on, I think it's either on Amazon or Hulu, and the name's escaping me right now, but it was pretty solid. I watched it recently.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for that one to hook me, but
31 maybe, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I'll have to check out Lords of Salem, but I'm
I've
sure
got
Shirley Moon Zombie's in it. And so, Bryan, for everyone listening to the podcast today, can you introduce what movie we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so we are going to do the movie Drag Me to Hell, circa 2009. It grossed $42,100,625, and it placed 72nd in the box office that year. Ahead of it was Planet 51, which I'd never heard of before, and the movie behind it was Orphan, which I have actually seen.
Another horror movie.
Yep. And number one that year was Avatar. So his name is James Cameron. IMDb rating was 3.5, and critics on the tomato meter gave it a 92. Audience a score of 62.
Yeah, that's quite a disparity that the critics love this one so much more. I find that a little odd.
It was also weird that this was coming off of Sam Raimi's dumpster fire that was Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I feel like he almost celebrated getting out of that franchise. Like,
well,
hey.
Apparently he already had this one written and like ready to go after Army of Darkness, and wanted to get through all of the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, get through making all that money.
Yeah.
And go back to making schlock horror. Right, so...
I suggest he sticks to what he's good at.
Yeah, this is what I love. So, Josh, have you seen this movie before?
I have. I actually own maybe half a dozen DVDs, and this is one of them. I saw it in theaters, I believe, when it came out, and probably bought it shortly after it came out. But it's something I hadn't revisited in a few years, so I was pretty excited to go back and see it.
Very cool. And Bryan, had you seen this movie before?
I had not. I had heard a lot about it. People have been saying, oh, you need to watch that for a long time. And I finally broke down. I was waiting for it to be on like a streaming service or something. And I finally broke down and bought it on Blu-ray last week. In celebration of this.
With the title like Drag Me to Hell, what were your guys' expectations?
I was excited to come back to it. Like I said, I'd seen it before. It's a Sam Raimi movie. I like his movies, so I was expecting to come back and enjoy it. I was also, like I was saying before the show, expecting my fiance to hate it, which she did. And
very good.
I guess I just really expected not to harp too much on the man who killed Hitler and Bigfoot, but I just expected a lot of people being drugged to hell. And right off the bat, I wasn't disappointed. Like, I was just assuming that there were... I was just expecting a lot of hands out of the ground pulling people back into it, And right away I was like, yep, there it is.
Yeah, when this movie came out, I admit I saw the title and I was just like, that's a little bit of an extreme title. I don't think I'm up for that. I don't know that I'm up for dragging to hell. So I skipped out of it on it. And it took me a couple years to get around to it. I didn't recognize that it was from Sam Raimi until I was reading through top horror movies from whatever year. I was like, Sam Raimi went back to horror? And like, all right, I'll give this a shot. I love Evil Dead in all iterations, show form, original movies, even the remake. And yeah, Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and I've been one of those people kind of evangelizing for it. Like, I know the
I'll
title is what it is, but go see this movie.
I'll also it's worth noting also that I watched the unrated director's cut of this.
As
So,
did I. Yeah.
a couple extra scenes in that weren't in the regular cut. So if I mention something and you're like, "When did that happen?" That could be why.
Couple of extra gory bits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the parts that I don't know that it would have pushed it to an R rating with those extra
Toeing
bits.
the edge, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, but it did have that extra Raimi touch in a lot of this. So we're going to take a quick advertisement break, and when we come back, we are going to spoil this movie. So if you have not seen Drag Me to Hell 2009, go watch the movie, come back to the podcast and listen to it, and then engage with us later on our Facebook page or any other form of social media. So we'll be back very soon.
Look here, green leaves, I will make you into soldiers. Now raise your bags at arm's length from your body, chest height until I say so, and keep them up. What is this, Private Cottrell? Is this a non-issued army belt around your waist? Maybe, sir. What makes you think that you can walk in here like that? Did you just forget? What else did you forget, Private Cottrell? Did you equip your latest episode of Retro Movie Roundtable? Yes, Drill Sergeant, sir. Private, did you give Retro Movie Roundtable a rating, review, and subscription? Drop here and give me 40, maggot. Don't you know the Retro Movie Roundtable needs your ratings, reviews, subscription to build this army of movie lovers and let them know how they can make the show better? I bet you did not even like the show on Facebook, much less write the show at Retro Movie Roundtable at yahoo.com. No, sir. Are you dead, soldier? Do you think that you're special? I will whip you into shape. I will show you how to dress, rate, review, subscribe, like, and write the show like a United States soldier. Yes, sir, Drill Sergeant, sir.
And we're back. Once again, if you haven't seen this movie, there's spoilers ahead. Josh, would you like to break down Drag Me to Hell?
I would love to. All right, so movie opens up in the 60s with a frantic couple bringing their son to see a mysterious woman, telling her he hears these evil voices after he stole a silver necklace from a gypsy wagon. They hold an unsuccessful seance where they were attacked by spirits. The ground opens up, spirits take hold of the boy, and, as the name would suggest, he was dragged to hell. Fast forward to present-day LA, we meet Christine Brown, a bank loan officer in a battle with a suck-up co-worker for an assistant manager position. While at work, she is approached by an elderly, disheveled, gypsy-type woman named Mrs. Ganush, asking for a third extension on her mortgage. Christine says no in an attempt to look tough for her boss. The woman begs and cries, drops to her knees. She still says no, to which the woman accuses Christine of shaming her. After work, Christine is attacked by the old woman. During the attack, she rips a button off her coat and curses it. Later, after getting a bad feeling, Christine and her skeptical boyfriend visit a seer by the name of Ram Dass. He tells her that she is being haunted by a dark spirit. Later that night, she is attacked by that spirit. The next day, she goes to Mrs. Ganush's house in an attempt to beg for her forgiveness, only to discover that she has died, and they were having a gypsy funeral for her. Christine returns to Ram Dass, who explains the spirit is actually a demon called the Lamia, and that she will be tormented for 3 days until she is dragged to hell. He suggests that a sacrifice may appease it. It does not, and Christine's kitty meets a grisly end. Her only other option is to enlist the help of Sandina, the lady from the opening scene of the movie, and only after she pays her $10,000. Again, as in the beginning of the movie, the seance does not go well. Finds the demon inhabiting the bodies of a couple of the group that were there and a goat. The Sandina was successful in banishing the demon, but she ends up being killed in the struggle. As a last resort, Ram Dass says that she must gift the cursed button to someone, thus saving herself, but damning another person. He also says that the object could be potentially gifted to a dead person. Christine digs up Mrs. Ganush's grave, shoves the object into her mouth, and passes the curse on to her. Christine returns home. The next day, she prepares for a weekend trip with her boyfriend. She gets a phone call that she got the promotion that she was wanting, and life is good. Until that is, she arrives at the train station, where her boyfriend gives her a button that he found in his car. Horrified, she backs away and falls onto the tracks in the path of an oncoming train. Just before the train hits her, the ground opens up. Christine is grabbed by arms, and, again, as the title would suggest, she was dragged to hell, all while her terrified boyfriend watches helplessly.
So since we're talking about plot point right here, I want to interject with a sideline plot point that happens throughout this entire movie, and it's going to be my sole criticism of this movie as a whole. And I'm just going to go right out and say it. So during this entire time, Christine is vying for a promotion at her job against the new guy, who is your typical skeezy, stab you in the back guy, who's trying to schmooze with the boss by giving him Laker tickets and whatever to get the promotion. She has an ace in the hole with this project that she has completed for a loan, and he then takes this project and takes it to another bank, thus seemingly ruining her chance of getting the promotion, and then she finally gets it at the end. So my criticism of all this is I was way more concerned with her getting her promotion than her being dragged to hell. The most anxiety provoking part of this movie for me was when she was at work. Like that whole thing, I was just a mess for her. I was like, oh, she's got to get this promotion. This other guy. But I was just like, come on, but that was far more like taxing on me than any of the spooky stuff that was happening to her as a result of being cursed.
Well, the guy did have a supremely punchable face too, so I was really rooting for her to get that promotion.
I love that guy though. He did his job.
Yeah.
I loved how this movie opened. To go back to last week's podcast where I was advocating child murder, I will do that once again because that's just going to be my thing this month, I guess. But I loved how it started off just like, hey, we're going to kill this kid. This kid is going to be dragged to hell.
There was no mystery of how they titled this movie.
Yeah, like unrelated small child dragged to hell. Like, well, that's how this movie is going to go.
And I appreciate a movie that isn't afraid to have a bad ending, like a sad ending. And so with Justin Long, who I guess this may have been the last thing that he has ever been seen in, because I've not seen him since
Tusk.
Tusk. Oh yeah, yes, I forgot about Tusk.
He did another very bad horror movie.
But he just watches helplessly as she's dragged. He had a ring in his pocket, was ready to propose, and watches his soon-to-be fiance being dragged to hell.
You know what? That's what she gets, though. Brian's in retail. I've been in retail. Like, that's what she gets for getting that coat from the person that repeatedly said, hey, we're closed.
Making her open up.
She's like, just open your store for me. I really want that coat. It'd look nice on me. No.
It is interesting you bring that up, Chad, because there are constantly things that I should start a list of. I use the quote, there's a special place in hell for ... And that would definitely be one of them. I'm talking about things like people who drive the wrong way through a mall parking garage, like against the arrow kind of stuff. I mean, just little things that happen on a daily basis that I'm like, oh yeah, there's a circle of hell for that. And that's another thing. At the end of the movie, she got drugged to hell, and I was like, all right. I actually kind of wanted Justin Long to get it. I was just like, oh, that'd be awesome. I don't know. Nobody in this movie compelled me so much that if they had been drugged to hell, I would have been like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, excuse me, I kind of feel like Christine, Alison Lohman, I feel like she wasn't a great actress. So I didn't mind seeing someone being, if it was going to be someone, she kind of got on my nerves a little bit.
I actually dug her. I liked... this is a movie that I'm just kind of enchanted with, and I'm probably have rose-colored glasses.
Oh no, absolutely too. I do enjoy the movie a lot, and it's fun to pick it apart.
I have 3 cats, which is an unreasonable amount of cats for anyone that's passing judgment. I know, but they even killed a cat.
And that's where my fiance was done with this movie.
I get it.
As she was looking for the cat with the knife, she goes, if she kills the cat, I'm not watching. If she kills the cat, I'm not watching. She killed the cat, and she stopped watching.
Yeah.
And unfortunate for her, one of the extended scenes of the special edition that I had was a little bit more of the cat killing.
Yeah.
So
you get a couple extra nice stabs
and then the body
blood.
down into the hole. So
but it produces a great line later. It's like, I did what you said. I killed a little kitty.
All right. No, let me ask you guys a question, though. If out of everybody that has a speaking part in this movie, would you have been upset if any of them got drugged to hell?
No.
Like, really. I was fully behind whoever got the hot potato button at the end of this. I was like, all right.
It should have been Stu. We can all agree that it should have been Stu.
Yeah, I would have been a little sad if the gypsy's daughter or Ramjas.
Ramjas, yeah.
Like, he was just trying to help. He was kind of an idiot, but he was just trying to help. How can you... He probably went to a lot of effort to find a black goat to bring into a seance at the last minute. Like, I feel for this guy. He's got a bunch of books. He's just... Like, he's never had to deal with a lamia before. But, Bryan just learned some Hungarian and steal something from some of these people that you're seeing. Give it right back to them.
In the back of my mind, I was actually still, like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, even if her boss got drugged to hell, I would have been like, yeah, that's fine.
I think Frye's excited for the sequel where everyone gets dragged to hell.
Everyone. There really needed to be more dragging to hell in this movie. Like, maybe
the body count was 5. I did come across that 5 people were killed.
I was kind of hoping Justin Long's parents might be drugged to hell. Like, that would have been all right.
Oh man, that was a rough scene. As an awkward person to just meet and talk to in general. I felt for her so badly, and then she just flips out, and everyone's judging. The mom's already like, why are you marrying this girl? She works in a bank. She's not rich. I'm like, oh.
She didn't go to Yale.
Just eat the fly.
Just eat the fly. I forgot about the fly.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the cast. But, Bryan, you want to give us a rundown of the cast?
Absolutely. So we have Alison Lohman as Christine Brown, Justin Long as Clay Dalton, Lorna Raver as Mrs. Ganush, Dileep Rao, I'm going to go with that, as Ramjas. Dileep Rao. Sounds good to me. David Paymer as Mr. Jax, Adriana Barraza, there we go. Sean Sandina is her character.
Academy Award nominee.
Celeste Ross is Leonard Dalton. Reggie Lee is Stu Rubin. Molly Cheek is Trudy Dalton. I'm just going to stop there. I got to tell you, I couldn't name, and I've watched this recently, I don't think I could have named anybody after Ramjas after finishing the movie. Like, if you'd said, what's the boss's name? I would have been like, that bank boss. So, yeah, I don't know.
Name Stu?
Stu, yeah, you can remember.
Oh, Stu.
And Mrs. Ganush, I could, yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I didn't know Trudy Dalton or Elinka Ganush.
Christine,
yeah, I
Clay,
think it was
and
just
Mrs.
Justin
Ganush
Long's
and Ramjas.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. At some point, you recognize that nobody else in this movie mattered, really.
Yeah, it really is about Christine Brown and to a much lesser
extent, Justin Long, her boyfriend, right?
Yeah, it was surprising.
It was. Yeah, I agree.
I feel like he was a bigger name than what his role was in this movie. I mean, he'd been in Jeepers Creepers. Accepted was before this movie. He was Mr. Mac. So one of the fun things is he's always using Apple products because he was their spokesperson.
Right.
But yeah, he did not have much of a part in this. And Ellen Page was actually originally cast as Christine, but she dropped out to star in Whiplash. Actually
I
Seen
would've been-
Whiplash. I
So the
enjoyed
roller
it.
derby
interested
movie?
in that.
Yes.
Okay.
When was Live Free or Die Hard?
Would-
Was that was before this, right?
I think so. Would you guys have liked Ellen Page to replace Alison Lohman?
I think so. Yeah, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves with replacing someone in the
Okay.
cast.
right.
But that, no, I would have liked that. Like I didn't hate the girl that played Christine. I just I think her acting ability was a little questionable.
Well, let
Bryan?
me put it to you guys
Did you
this
see-
way.
yeah, Ellen?
I'd totally be behind that. But that's what a lot of these superlatives and stuff toward the end of this movie were difficult for me because, and I don't really mean this as a criticism. This movie was what it was, but really any of them could have been interchanged with anybody else, and this movie still would have been what it was. You know what I mean? Like, unless they got someone who really,
I feel like
tanked it.
I feel like Mrs. Ganush was probably that was probably a solid casting.
Yeah, Mrs. Ganush.
She's Ganush. Yeah, she was. I think she was very, very good at that role she was playing.
And that's crazy because she moved to Hollywood in her 60s and basically didn't know what she was reading for. When she got this part, she just said, "Oh boy." She had just read for the bank scene, and it was like little old lady goes to bank to try and prevent banker from foreclosing on her, and that's what she read. And when she got the actual script,
She hired a Hungarian dialect coach. I remember reading, and
yeah, so she got a late start. So if you don't recognize that name, you're not alone. She was doing like Broadway and things like that before, and just decided late in life, hey, I'm gonna go give Hollywood a try. And thank goodness she did, because she was wonderful in this movie.
Okay.
And for Sam Raimi fans out there, if you're wondering, he tends to cast Bruce Campbell in everything. I can't think of any other movies of Sam Raimi's off the top of my head that Bruce isn't in, except for this one.
I don't think there are any other ones.
Yeah, and Bruce had a scheduling conflict, so
It was a Burn Notice, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a fun show, but he could not get into this film, and Sam didn't want to delay production, so no Bruce Campbell. For those
Who would have he have been in this? Like her boss?
We might talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But right now, what we are going to talk about is the film's creation. So this film was produced by Robert Tappert and Grant Curtis. These are old friends of Sam Raimi. Tappert worked with Sam on Evil Dead, and Grant Curtis worked on the Spider-Man series. It was directed, like we said, by Sam Raimi, famous for, again, Evil Dead, Spider-Man. His style is
Distinct.
Yeah, it is.
You always knew you were watching a Sam Raimi movie. Can go from a creepy, like scary type of scene to an anvil falling on someone's head with the sound effects and the eyeballs gushing out. There's
always an eyeball in someone's mouth.
Yeah, there is, and very, very distinct style that Raimi has, and it really, harkens back to the Evil Dead. Even the way they scream and fly around and everything was very Evil Dead, and it's one of the reasons I like this movie so much.
Yeah,
I just want to know who keeps an anvil in their storage area hooked up to a rope like that. What kind of person does that?
It's better to have one and not need one than need one and not have one.
Clearly.
I mean, when you start,
I just remember thinking, like, what?
Anvils, it all falls apart.
It was very Looney Tunes, but I'm glad it was there.
I mean, Evil Dead 2 had a dancing skeleton outside.
Mm-hmm.
He cut off his arm and attached a chainsaw. Like, these are all necessary things for Sam Raimi. For those that just know him from the original Spider-Man franchise, that's not
really his style.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a love for gore. He really does, but it's always as gory as it is. It's always in good fun.
There's always an undercut of zaniness to the gore.
Yeah, when she's
sound effects, like screaming, like just it's kind of funny.
Yeah, the Lamia is creepy, but when he gets into the room and starts tossing around, it was violent, but at the same time, he kind of made that light. I don't know how.
A horror movie that you smile at a lot.
This person's gonna die! Yay! Bryan, how you've seen some of Raimi's other works? How do you think that this compares to maybe the Evil Dead?
Evil Dead and Darkman, I'm big fans or a big fan of. I liked Quick and the Dead, The Gift. He's one of those up and down directors for me. Anybody associated with those Spider-Man movies it's a rough sell for me at this point. Just because as I've noted many times, Tobey Maguire's not one of my favorite people. Those movies are not anywhere, like, they're just bottom bucket movies for me. So I truly believe or mean it when I say it. He needs to stick with these horror movies.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely prefer him in the horror movie role. But for those listening, Bryan has a personal vendetta.
Yeah, he's really mad about those Spider-Man movies and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, I think it's almost all Spider-Man movies. Are you okay with Tom Holland now?
Is it Tobey Maguire or is it?
It's Tobey Maguire.
I was gonna say, do you have his face on a dartboard or something like that?
No, it's not that bad. It's not like, you just throw hatchets at him. You got one of his likenesses, the cardboard likenesses from a movie theater. You're just chucking hatchets. No, it's nothing like that. I'm just not a fan of his. It's nothing to do with really him. I don't think he's a bad actor. He's just not my cup of tea. I would say that the execution on those Spider-Man movies wasn't my favorite. The casting was definitely not my favorite. And I kind of had an eyebrow up when they were being made based on the fact that it was Sam Raimi doing them. And I was like, okay, well, I guess you got to branch out somewhere. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh, God. Like,
well, he needed to make his money, rough. And I'm sure he did.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't blame him for that. And I liked both of the follow-up Spider-Man iterations. Andrew Garfield went a long way of healing some of those wounds, and then I absolutely love Tom Holland.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Tom Holland's. As far as Sam Raimi's storytelling, though, Josh, what do you feel is Sam Raimi's storytelling style?
I think what you were saying, or what you have here about there is some genuine respect for the character, but man, he beats the crap out of him. Like, he really does. He does make them. He puts him through a lot. He puts him through a lot of emotional ranges there. But like I said, there's the highs and the lows, and the scary and the funny, and I kind of respect and enjoy the balance there between the two different styles.
Bryan, what do you think about Raimi's storytelling?
As far as his horror movies go, I really agree with most of what you guys have said about him being, almost whimsical with a lot of it. And it is funny. Like, the gore pieces specifically are Looney Tune-esque. But I mean, I think, Josh, you probably nailed it when you were like, you always know when you're watching one of his movies. It's like watching Michael Bay make anything. Like, you're always going to have that one explosion that has a car do a 360. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've gotten kind of off the rails now. But I enjoy Sam Raimi horror movies a lot. And it's weird. You almost feel like you hit the lottery sometimes when you find out he's making another one, just because they are few and far between when you really look at it in terms of years.
Yeah. Drag Me to Hell came out. I'm actually not familiar with The Gift. I don't know if that was a horror movie or not. The last one I recognized was from 1990, which would have been 19 years.
And I never saw Oz the
great and powerful. So I don't know if his trademark style kind of follows suit with that one.
That was a James Franco movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that Bryan has his issues with Tobey Maguire. I've got mine with James
Franco?
Yes.
I don't think I hate anybody like that.
I don't like your face, sir. I'm sure he's fine. I did like the interview, so I'll give him that. As far as cinematography goes, I really actually enjoyed a lot that went on in this movie. I thought there were great shots, particularly in the cemetery, the graveyard sequence.
The graveyard sequence was awesome. Yeah, I watched actually some of the special features, and I watched how they made the graveyard sequence.
Yeah, that
was really
so cool.
It was really neat. They had to go through this whole. It wasn't in a graveyard. Obviously, there was just like this trapezoid-shaped metal box that they had her in, and they had to. I think they ended up using spa mud to get the right consistency, but it was like a trial and error process there in the beginning to trying to find the right consistency of the mud. So I thought it was super interesting and a very memorable sequence. I also one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when the Lamia kind of first shows up, and it's like in the middle of the day, and he's kind of walking around and nothing really happens, but like I think with the shots that they had there, it made it extra spooky, which was kind of odd because it was so like middle of the day and bright out. Like I'd never really seen it like that, but it was very effective.
When he's running around the house.
Yeah,
that shadow was very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this movie does have instances where it's actually scary. Yeah, you have a lot of fun and you laugh and there's some zany gore, but when the Lamia is coming up the stairs and you hear those hooves and you see the shadow,
yeah,
like
or when she comes home and when she's first attacked by the Lamia, before she really knew what was going on, it was a pretty terrifying scene.
Yeah, she gets
kind of thrown around the kitchen and everything.
Yeah, I feel like part of his style is dingy and dirty. Like he has to get everyone just absolutely filthy. Back to what you guys have both talked about, of kind of putting his actors through an ordeal. Like there's, you mentioned the mud. Alison Lohman was allergic to whatever synthetic.
It broke out into hives. You must have watched the same one I did.
Yeah, so she actually did. It was real mud, and I appreciate that from her. Like she's getting doused in real mud. There's nothing you can do. This was a very dirty shot, and that graveyard setup was so cool. With it was like a little box that they set up and angled just right. It was impressive to see the
water falling into it the whole time. Yeah.
So that's the only part of this that I took umbrage on, in terms of like she dug the whole hole, opens it up, has a fight with a dead body, and I think it was raining the entire time, but only when she goes to climb out does she get a deluge of mud. You know what I mean?
Totally unrealistic. No, I didn't notice that.
No.
Okay. I was just like sitting there like, why is it pouring mud on her now? Like, what changed?
I don't know. The last laugh from Mrs. Ganesh.
So I suppose that falls into our next category of editing. Bryan has some editing with the graveyard sequence here.
I mean, there's just a couple things. But again, if you're trying just to be entertained by a Sam Raimi horror movie, it doesn't matter. Like, none of this is really
I thought it was
important.
All nice and entertaining. I didn't ever really feel bored watching it. Like, I was, as far as the flow of everything went, I thought it was really paced nicely.
I was going to say, stuff like that, little nitpicky things, when I see something and recognize it, and then I start to think, well, why did they do that? I always have a flashback to our friend Chris Shreve in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, gosh.
Where they're reforging Narsil, and he's sitting there, and he audibly says, "You can't reforge steel like that." and so anytime I nitpick something like that, I always think about that, and I'm like, all right, shut up, Bryan.
I don't think it wasn't really going for realism in this movie, so
right.
I'll overlook some things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, as far as this goes, it was a short 90 minutes and
easy watch. Like never really felt boring.
Watch.
Yeah, I agree. You get moved from set piece to set piece, and there's always something going on. whether it's funny and then horrifying or a little bit of both. But yeah, it's there's really well paced and smooth for me.
I actually had a breakthrough since the last podcast where we discussed horror movies. I had mentioned that Jess will no longer watch horror movies with me. Like, less than 24 hours after that podcast, she watched As Above, So Below with me, and I was, like, in my head just signaling touchdown the entire time. I was like, yes! We're turning a corner!
That is an intense one to get someone to jump into. Like, I would think Gremlins would be an entry point.
I'm working
like,
on
she
it.
dug
I have
it.
plans, because Karen does not like horror movies either, and I have plans on having her watch Gremlins with me this year.
It's a good choice.
So what did Jessica think of it?
Oh, no, she was really into it. And that just... I really think that as a horror movie enthusiast, and she used to like going to see those movies with me prior to The Ring, I really think that you can step on the wrong landmine when it comes to these, and it can put you off for a while. And in this case, it put her off for like 15 years.
Well, you mean like me telling my dad that he should watch House of a Thousand Corpses? And
I don't think he'll take a movie recommendation from you ever again for anything. He could be like, Josh, what's a good rom-com? And he'll be like, I can't trust you.
I could hear my stepmom in the background just like, it was nasty.
She was right.
It's like if somebody asks you, hey, Josh, can I get a good romance movie? And you're like, yeah, you should totally watch Boogie Nights.
Oh no!
Like that's the level of suggestion disparity from what he was really asking for to what he received.
There are movies, and this is a little rabbit trail here, but there are movies that I really like, but I struggle to recommend to someone because I'm afraid I'm going to be judged really harshly.
I recognize that and understand that completely.
Like Bone Tomahawk, I love, and Brian, I've thought about recommending that to you 100 times.
What about Hobo with a Shotgun?
Yeah, but
I love Hobo with a Shotgun.
Bone Tomahawk, it is a Western horror movie, and Kurt Russell's in it, and it's great. But you may come back to me after watching that and saying, what the heck, man? It is we'll just put it, I won't spoil anything, but it's memorable.
Actually, you don't have to worry, Chad. I have actually already seen this. I just typed it into Google. I had completely forgotten the name of it. So I have watched Bone Tomahawk.
So you know what I'm talking about as far as memorable.
Yeah, I get it. I think what I'm saying as far as House of a Thousand Corpses goes is it's the intensity that is lasting throughout the entire movie. Plus, it's worth noting
for sure.
Yeah, it's a really exhausting movie, and it's also worth noting that we had picked up some really, really awful malt liquor to drink.
I was going to say we were probably fairly drunk because we were in undergrad living together watching it at the time.
Yeah, and I had picked up. I still remember the name of this.
A little woozy watching it. Yeah.
Well, I still remember the name of this because it was so bad. But while we were watching this movie, I was drinking this bottle of Wild Irish Rose, and it was a malt wine something or other from Maris's. And I just think the combination of the two upset me for a really long time.
Ruined alcohol and horror movies at the same time. That's a double whammy. So as far as set design, I think Josh mentioned it. It's pretty much present day Los Angeles. There's no particular social environment or any interest in having that discussion.
Yeah, it was serviceable. It was fine.
We're in a bank, and all bankers are evil. Yeah. Even those of us that work for a bank. I guess we are
100%. This could have been this movie could have been filmed in any suburb in the United States or Canada.
That's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was just Los Angeles because that's where they were, and they were lazy, and that's fine. The wardrobes and costumes, I don't know that there's much to write home about.
No.
Anything you guys want to contribute?
Nothing that upset me or excited me. Like, it was fine. It was adequate.
Yeah.
Yeah, standard,
did
except for that blue coat at the end. I mean, that was game changing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've actually purchased one like that for Sarah, so I did appreciate that. I was like, yes, it's a nice coat. Not worth opening in the store for a random lady, but it's a nice coat. So good on them for that pea coat. What I do want to talk about is the special effects and the lighting. Some of this, my favorite special effects weren't actually effects. Those maggots in the nightmare scene with Mrs. Ganush like vomiting violently into Christine's mouth, those were real.
I didn't know that.
And Christine has her mouth open. They shoved these maggots through this tube in a Mrs. Ganush puppet, and the Ganush puppet was amazing too. I was watching this extra with them and watching them load maggots into this tube, and Sam Raimi's direction to Alison Lohman, and God bless her for taking this direction, was open your mouth. I don't know how much she was paid. I'm sure it's public, but I don't know that it was enough to take that direction. Like, she had a good career at this point.
No, though I agree that the practical effect, I think, is the right right term to use. I appreciate that the puppetry and the blood with the bank scene.
Yes.
that was fantastic.
Yeah, I watched the engineering of that. It wasn't really CGI. I expected it to be, but they plugged Allison's nose and ran a tube up it, and just made this tube of blood shoot up her nose, hit this plug, and then spew back out. So that was disgusting. And they initially got the pressure wrong too. So she probably had quite a headache. We mentioned it was real blood. The goat at the seance was a puppet.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice that.
I didn't either. I read that prior to watching it, and I was like, it's a pretty great puppet.
Yeah. Bryan, did you notice it was a fake goat?
I did not know it was a fake goat, but I really want to make a joke that it's not Justin Long's first experience with the goat.
Flashback to Waiting.
Yes. Man, I love
No, I didn't know it was a fake joke.
I do too. That's another one of the DVDs that I own.
Yeah, but I mean, you want to talk about a movie that politically has not aged well?
No.
Yeah, that's just one big Me Too movie.
Yeah.
It's someone that worked in as a waiter. Yeah, that
was a big Me Too industry.
Recently. Yeah. I've watched it recently, and I just remember being like, oh, this movie would get massacred today.
Maybe if we ever do that, and I doubt we will for those exact reasons, the does it hold up section will be nope.
Hard no.
For the soundtrack and score, I'll ask you guys, was this a typical horror movie fare of background music, or did anything stand out to you?
I can't really recall much that stood out to me. That being said, I didn't think it was bad. It's orchestral mostly from what I recall. Yeah.
I have a micro criticism on this. Not that it's a big deal, and he may have actually been going for this, but I felt like the music and the sound effects were a little bit too leading. I felt like you always knew when the surprise or the whatever was supposed to make you jump, you always knew when it was coming. One, by the cinematography, because he always zoomed in on her face really close right before it happened, and the music cuts. So
yeah.
I feel like he telegraphed the surprises a little too much to the point where they weren't as surprising.
That's fair criticism. When things like Mrs. Ganush's handkerchief lands on the car, I guess the music does cut out. I could have
happens at her house too.
Yeah, I could have gone for a little bit more zany music or something whenever they're having the car fight scene. Like I wanted her radio to kick into something that just would have made it upped it to 11. I mean, that was already a great fight. They're hitting each other with actual staplers.
The stapler, yeah, stapled her eye shut.
And I love Lorna Raver. She just told Alison, hit me. Like, I want this to be real. Both of them really wanted it to be real. And Lorna was saying, hey, I was really sore, but we got a great shot. Like, all right, Alison saying, choke me. Lorna saying, hit me with a stapler. Good for both of them.
Yeah, good for them. I like taking one for the team.
You can't feel good if you're Alison, though, hitting, I don't know what she was at this point in time, but she was above 60.
Yeah.
The extras are so strange.
Yeah, but I mean,
though. She's such a pleasant woman outside of this movie.
Yeah.
Would the movie have done better and achieved more acclaim had something actually happened to her as a result of her enthusiasm for the part?
Oh man, one of those
Like if
cursed
there had been
where
there's a death associated with it, and the death is actually the lady who dies cursing someone, and
it
I
didn't
don't know.
help the original been her. All
Ruth.
those dead horses. It did. I don't know. There were death rumors around the other Ben Hur, the one that we covered. Trying to think. Is there a famous example that you can think of, Frye? That's a.
Oh, where someone died around. Well, I mean, Heath Ledger. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like Batman got a whole lot
Brandon
more press with his death. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, the Crow. Yeah.
That's another good one. So yeah, I do. I think you can actually get cult status almost guaranteed with a death.
Well, I for one am glad Miss Raver.
I'm glad she didn't die though.
Yeah, I'm glad she survived this movie. She'll be around for the sequel if they ever make it, or do Evil Dead 2 and completely remake this and make it a very, very different story. Well, now it is time for our Look for This. This is where we share fun facts, bonus content, or trivia for things that we just couldn't get around to talking about in earlier segments. So we'll start with you, Josh. Look for this.
There are actual references to the Evil Dead series that I really appreciated. One that I didn't realize until afterwards was the car, the Delta 88.
Yes,
something you can see. Car. I guess that's in the Evil Dead series. Even at the end when they were taking a weekend trip to Justin Long's cabin in the woods. Yes. That was a reference to the Evil Dead series. So I enjoyed those.
Yeah, I love that. Bryan, look for this.
I would say I didn't really have a good look for this movie just because most of my thoughts on how this went down in terms of a look for this moment were, like the anvil, just recognizing some of the sets for the absurdity that they were and loving how that played into the plot would probably be my look for this. If I was going to tell somebody, this is what you need to pay special attention to this because you may not catch it the first time, I would say set absurdities.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one, though. That's a staple of Sam Raimi. Why is there a chainsaw? Why are there... for me, we're going to continue with the Evil Dead references. On the way to the cemetery, Christine says, "I'm going to get some." And it's kind of a line that stands out of, is this really in character with you? But it was a reference to Bruce Campbell's Ash Williams saying, "Come get some," from Evil Dead. And the movie also opens with 1980s Universal logo. And that's when Evil Dead came out. So Sam Raimi is really promoting, hey, I'm doing horror again.
And speaking of promoting, I think we mentioned before, Justin Long using Apple products throughout the movie, and he was actually the Apple spokesperson at the time. So I wonder if there was something worked into his contract there where he got to display the Apple products.
Yeah. I cannot touch a PC.
Yeah.
It has to be an Apple. It wouldn't surprise me if Steve Jobs worked that in. we did mention the puppet goat. There was an actual goat in parts of the seance, but my favorite reason for it being replaced was it was too friendly.
Aww.
And it was licking Alison during the seance.
Kind of ruined the vibe of the seance. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it's like you're supposed to be possessed, and it's just licking her.
It's not scary at all.
Messing with her, and she's laughing during the scene like, can someone get this goat to stop licking me? Josh, do you have any other look for this?
I think that was most of it. I did see that the Lamia was actually based on an actual thing.
Yeah.
I had it right here.
Yeah, the Lamia is actually a woman.
It's a boogie woman from Greek mythology who stalks the countryside looking for children to devour. It was a story they used to get young children into their beds at bedtime. The Lamia was going to come get you.
Yeah, that's sort of messed up.
Yeah. I even read it. It was there's some people that think that there's some connection between the Lamia and Krampus.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Ooh. All right. More that was a fun movie, by the way. But yeah, more.
Russell's going to be sad he missed this. I mean, there's a lot of good parenting opportunities with this trivia here.
How to motivate your kids by the Retro Movie Roundtable. Tell them they'll be murdered.
Lamia.
Follow instructions.
Lamia.
I mean, the moral of the story is don't mess with gypsies.
Right. Yeah. Never.
But don't we already know that? I'm sorry.
Service to
Like,
gypsies
I
if
don't
they ever come to
know.
my office.
I don't know when I learned this, but I feel like it must have been. What was the Bond movie with the gypsies where the two women have to fight each other?
Oh, yes.
Is that from Russia with Love?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to use that one as an example. I feel like they really hit home the don't mess with gypsies piece, like from a long way back. So I just feel like I understand she wanted the promotion and I was nervous for her. But if you don't know not to mess with the gypsy, you definitely don't mess with the gypsy with one different colored eye who's cleaning her teeth out of her mouth at your desk.
And
like,
if you absolutely have to mess with a gypsy, you don't take from them afterwards.
Right.
You keep the button. I'm not taking that.
Yeah. It's not my button now.
I mean, in that moment, I think I'd be happy it's over when someone's handing it to me. Like, what just happened? But yeah, the afterwards realization of I just took something from a gypsy. I am screwed. Would come to mind. Like, I would be visiting.
I'd have a little less issue giving it to Stu, though.
Yeah.
Stu would have gotten it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I want to give you something, Stu. Just take this button and you can keep your job.
Right.
I'm not going to tell anyone. And then he goes and rats her out anyways.
He deserved the button.
Yeah, but he never would have gotten the button. He would have gotten a nickel.
That's true.
That's true. Hey,
That's
good
true.
catch.
Yes.
That apparently is worth something, too. So not only would she have still been dragged to hell, but she would have furthered Stu.
Movie ruined. We don't have any out.
He actually won the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he did get fired. I guess there's that. But he can go.
I feel like he had to put that in. There just would have been a revolt. Or maybe it'll be Drag Me to Hell 2, Stu's turn.
Yeah. What was it? Happy Death Day 2. I really like the series, but it started with Stoner Roommate. So that was fun. It's like, okay, we've met all the characters and not the original main chick. It's going to be the Stoner Roommate guy. Well, now it's time for our favorite time of the podcast, the movie superlatives. First up is our MVP. We'll start with you, Josh. Who is your MVP of Drag Me to Hell?
Well, my MVP this is probably an easy one, but I'm going director, Sam Raimi. It's exactly what I wanted the movie to be. It's a Sam Raimi horror movie, so I gave him the MVP.
Very good. Bryan, your MVP?
I feel like that we've talked about it enough now that I'm changing sides and going with Lorna Raver as Mrs. Ganesh.
Okay. Yeah, she was excellent. I loved her. For me personally, it's Alison Lohman. I know you guys kind of have picked on her acting and everything, but really watching the extras made me appreciate everything she put into this movie, from getting beat up the entire time to swallowing maggots, being covered in real dirt. What she was put through just pushed it over for me. And I thought she was sweet, and it was fun watching her just turn to kitty murder.
Killing her kitty.
and every other extent that she went to avoid dying.
That also, I feel like that happened really fast, too. It was like, there's no way I'm going to kill an animal. Well, you never know what you're capable of. Couple noises in the house. Here, kitty, kitty. Like that, it was quick, right? Like that was a very quick turnaround to kitten murder.
I mean, how many
and she could
times
have gone
do you
out
have
and
to
bought
be
a
attacked
chicken
by a lamia before you resort to kitten murder? I'm thinking my numbers
I'm just
between
saying,
1 and 2.
You take a swing down the road, you find a cow farm or something, you buy a chicken. You go to the local pet store, find a lizard. Lizards aren't going to like look all cute and stuff while you're knifing it. I mean, I'm just saying there were other options.
Desperation just made her act immediately, I guess. But yeah, I would certainly prefer not stabbing the kitten. Anyways, for our best supporting actor, Josh?
I went with Lorna Raver. I thought she was very convincing as the scary gypsy woman, and I think she probably made the movie for me.
Yeah, very good. Bryan?
Best supporting actor on this one, I'm going to go with Adriana Barraza.
Okay.
As
the seance lady.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I was into that one.
She was very convincing. Like, this lady can exorcise this demon and put it into the goat. Like, I bought it.
Put it in the goat.
I mean, it makes as much sense as anything. For me, yeah, again, we've talked about her. Lorna Raver. She really did. Without her, this movie, I don't think works as well. She really put in work, especially with those Hungarian curses. She's calling Alison all kinds of not nice
I was going to
things.
say, this is a family show, so we can't say what she was actually saying, but she was saying some very legitimate Hungarian curse words.
Yeah. Yeah. The extras, she's asking Sam, like, I can call her this word, Sam, in Hungarian. Would you like me to do that? He goes, yeah, that'd be great. It's very interesting how sweet. It's like, I'd like to call her this horrible thing.
Right.
Hidden Gem, which is our underappreciated cast member. Josh?
I put Justin Long. I think he was underutilized a little bit. I think he was the biggest name attached to the movie. And other than Tusk, I can't remember anything else that he's been in since. And I kind of like Justin Long. So
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Bryan, how about you for your Hidden Gem? Or no,
I can
you
actually
want to talk about Justin?
Yeah, I actually wanted. I'm thoroughly behind that. I think Justin Long is a lot of fun in the movies he's in. I think he actually lends to the I don't want to say goofiness, but more lightheartedness of the film. Like, he's clearly like trying to be supportive, but he's also not really buying it, and then he's kind of buying it. I just feel like that sort of character could have done more.
Could have been fleshed out a little more.
Yeah. But I mean, seriously, after all that crazy stuff happened, the fact that he was still going to propose at the end, I was like, man, that's solid.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good guy. He's supportive of her, but you can tell he's not really buying whatever's going on in her life. Like, I think my girlfriend may be a little bit insane.
But he loved her all the same.
Our cat's missing.
Crazy and all.
She's going nuts over missing buttons.
Yeah.
So, Bryan, who is your hidden gem?
Oh, no, I was backing up the Justin Long piece.
Oh, okay. So you're Justin Long.
Yeah.
For me, it's Sam Raimi. He actually can be seen as one of the ghosts in the seance. So that was kind of fun for me. But if you'd like to know another big name wasn't mentioned in our credits, Octavia Spencer.
I saw that. Yeah, I forgot all about that.
She is sitting as one of the coworkers doing absolutely nothing in this movie. It's like, here's a great actress that you've got just as a background character.
Yeah.
Like, let her say something. Next up is our recast. So we're going to replace one cast member. Josh, who are we recasting?
All right. Well, we already kind of talked about Ellen Page originally being cast. I thought Amy Adams, because she got a very Amy Adams vibe off of her.
Oh, okay.
But that's not my... Those are just the freebies. The one, you ready for this? Ram Dass, Jay Chandrasekhar.
Okay,
Like
Super Troopers, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so since
we're
we're
zaniness a little bit, yeah.
If we're gonna go, because I thought of this too, if we're gonna go silly with it, I want to see Betty White as Mrs. Ganesh.
Oh.
There's no way society would allow her to be portrayed that way.
Yeah,
yeah, but how much fun would that have been?
I want to go back to the J casting. I love that. As long as they make
I can see him being serious and just like throwing a little bit of quirky into it too.
Come on.
As long as they mix in some "they think I'm Mexican" jokes.
Yeah.
Why does everyone think
Someone walks in, "Hola."
I don't get it. They think I'm Mexican.
It's kind of like all those cameos they did on Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh yeah, yeah. For me,
Campus Police.
mentioned it earlier. I miss Bruce Campbell. Nothing against the Ram Dass character. I thought Dileep did a very good job, but I want Bruce Campbell back, and this is the character I can see Bruce Campbell doing. He seems kind of like a huckster. I think he could have fun with the role and pull off that smarmy but incompetent.
That doesn't kind of maybe is BSing the person in the beginning, but then starts to realize that there's really something going on there.
Yeah, maybe pull the Necronomicon from the shelves. So like you get another book, but pull the Necronomicon off the shelves. I actually read something today that they've completely made up that book, but people went into bookstores, and Bryan, you may be able to back this up. People went into bookstores asking for this imaginary book so often that they wound up printing it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like they created this book just to get all these people that were obsessed with, I guess, Evil Dead. And there's another movie that started this just to make them happy and be like, here's a book of spells that absolutely don't work.
Yeah, it is one of the more requested self-transformation titles that we carry in the store.
There you go. There's our plug. You want the Necronomicon from Evil Dead? Go to Barnes & Noble.
There we go.
So, best shot. Josh?
For me, it was, I mentioned before, the daytime haunting scene of the Lamia, where you see the hooves and everything when he's coming up the stairs, and you see the hooves stop like right behind the door. I thought that was a pretty spooky and powerful scene there.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryan, what's your best shot?
I think it's her climbing out of the grave. Just the various aspects of the body floating up behind her, and then the cross coming down, and all of that was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's terrifying with this dead gypsy woman floating up at you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, less terrifying when she's at the funeral and the casket just falls
out of the
over.
casket. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine was similar to yours, Bryan. It's when she's returning the button, she's shoving it in her mouth, and you get this angled shot from the grave where it's pouring water and mud in, and you can see the sky. Just there's a lot going on with that shot, so I thought that was very, very cool. Best scene, Josh.
Okay, this was an easy one for me. The shed scene. I took notes on what I was going to talk about, and the notes that I took was going to talk about for this scene. All it says is fist, anvil, and eyeballs. So she's in the shed trying to find things to pawn so she can pay the $10,000 to have the seance. And Mrs. Ganesh shows up like behind her, and they start fighting, and she punches her in the mouth, but goes about elbow deep into her face, into Christine's face.
She backs away, and she's holding the ice skate, and she slices the rope where the anvil comes down, squirting her eyeballs out on Christine's face. So that was an easy one for me.
And that is a fantastic one. I love that. And there's a little bit of extra blood in there.
And the sound effects too were a little cartoonish, and you just kind of expect to hear a boing or something like that in the background.
That was the one spot, like the CGI stood out to me as not working as well.
It looked dated. Yeah, it looked dated.
Everything else worked, but I was like, all right, I'm going to give this a pass.
I laughed out loud, even though I've seen it. I watched that scene again, and I laughed out loud. I was like, that's ridiculous.
I think any of the fight sequences between her and Mrs. Ganesh are probably collectively the best part of it. I was going to go with the car scene and the stapler, but
yeah,
like it's just like every time it happens, you're sitting there like, man, this is going to get weird.
Yeah, that was the same for me. The car scene goes from scary when she's practically slithering under the car to smashing the window with a cinder block, and then it kind of turns to goofy of she's hitting her with a stapler. So you get a little
stapling her eye shut. Yeah.
You get a little bit of everything, and knowing that both actresses didn't really use stunt doubles, it's just them wailing on each other, that made it a whole lot better for me. So change one thing.
I don't really want to change much about this movie. I thought it was exactly what it wanted to be. If I had to like twist my arm, change one thing, it would be to add Bruce Campbell somewhere.
Yeah. That's a big one for me too. I would like Bruce to come back. Bryan,
I think it is what we all wanted. My change one thing is going to be, I think I would have done less personal life and more scary stuff. I felt like the pregnant pauses in between horror were a little long, and I would have liked, instead of short punctuations of crazy stuff happening, to have more or longer, more sustained eeriness, if you follow me.
Yeah, you want to ratchet up the tension a little bit.
Yeah, I felt like everything was very like, this would be short sentences, and I was looking for more like paragraphs.
Okay, yeah, I'm for that. Add a little bit more Lamia terrorization.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm changing the title. I feel like Drag Me to Hell scared some people off. It made me say no thanks. I actually found out this was originally titled The Curse, which would have been just fine. I probably would have called it The Lamia or The Gypsy's Curse or anything else, but I just feel like this movie was passed over because of the title. I mean, Sam Raimi's no stranger to weird titles with The Evil Dead, but Drag Me to Hell was just a bit too extreme, so change it to The Lamia. We already had,
I like that.
What was it, La Lorna?
Lorna?
Yeah. So, best quote, Josh?
See, this was hard for me because I really wanted to quote the cursing goat. I'm not going to, but the goat gets possessed and he calls Christine some bad names, and he while he does it. So I'm not going to go with that. My best quote is a corny quote, but one I appreciated nonetheless. I think you said it seemed a little out of place and maybe forced. But when she walks into the cemetery and says, "I'm going to get some," and I was just like, okay. It's because that's a reference to the Evil Dead, and so I appreciated it, and so that was my best quote.
Yeah, Ash Williams reference, always appreciated. Bryan?
And get your filthy pig knuckle off my desk.
Oh yes,
it's a good one.
Stu's just sitting there as it transforms into the Lamia. That was a good scene, and just the freak out and everyone in the background. What? It's just, was that right before the blood?
I think so. Yeah.
Those things too. Yeah, that was a great scene. I'm going to the bank for mine too, but I'm going with a Lorna Raver quote. when she's just completely embarrassed, she does the "You shamed me. I begged you, and you shamed me."
That was pretty good. That was probably
I was
the best serious quote of the movie. Yeah.
I was sitting there like, oh no, you didn't. Oh, take it back, dude. She's a gypsy. Oh, this is trouble.
Yeah, that's when you're like, you know what? Never mind. You can have the house. You can have the house. We're going to work out new terms for you. I mean, she did get new terms several times over. They did establish that.
Right.
But yeah, when old crazy lady is saying you shamed her.
I'm sorry, old crazy lady.
Yeah, it's like my bad. We'll work something out in the morning. Just come back. Go see Stu. Well, it's been a lot of fun. Now it's time for our guest plug. Josh, do you have a plug? Anything you'd like to plug?
Besides being a horror movie enthusiast, I am also a chiropractor. Advanced Chiropractic of South Hills, Mount Lebanon Boulevard in Castle Shannon. So if you need any kind of realignment, I'm your guy.
If you've been attacked by a lamia recently?
If you've been attacked by a lamia or pulled a muscle stabbing your cat, I have the techniques that can help you out. Now, don't come to see me if you stabbed your cat. I'm joking.
Retro Movie Roundtable does not endorse stabbing cats or any other form of animal.
He also does not accept curse buttons as forms of payment.
Curse buttons are not acceptable forms of payment. I'll bill your insurance.
Right, very good. Go see Josh Evans. Now it's time for our rating and our recommendation. We'll start with you, Josh, as our guest. What do you give Drag Me to Hell?
We're going 4 stars.
4 stars.
4 stars. I like this movie a lot, and it won't go down in history as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. I've got no, I know that's not going to be the case, but as I've said a few times before, it's exactly what it wanted to be. It's what I wanted it to be, and I wish there would be more like that.
Yeah. Bryan, you've never seen this movie before, walking in with a fresh perspective. What do you give Drag Me to Hell?
I'm going to give it 3 stars, and that's not out of any disrespect to it. It is what it is. It's a very serviceable shock horror movie. It follows in line with Raimi's vision for his films, but it didn't wow me either. So yeah, I feel like 3 stars, and this is one of those movies I'd probably revisit maybe every other Halloween. Like, it's not my go-to, but it's once I forget it a little bit, it'll be oh yeah, I remember that. Let's watch it again.
Yeah, I get that. For me, I love this movie. It really is in the upper echelon of kind of comedy horror for me. So for me, it's 5 stars. I love everything about this movie. I do. I like this style.
There needs to be more of it. There needs to be more of this style, Raimi or otherwise.
I like the Gremlins, the Critters, the Evil Deads. And this is right up there. It just fills that void for me, and I want more. I want the Cabin in the Woods, so please keep making movies like this that I can enjoy. The Babysitter was another great one on Netflix. So 5 stars for me. Bryan, are you ready to pick a movie for next week?
Let's pick a movie.
All right, I am entitling this one Bad Trip. So we're going to do a short list of 3 movies involving vacations gone wrong. Option number 1, Wolf Creek from 2005. 3 backpackers stranded in the Australian outback are plunged in a hellish nightmare of insufferable torture by a sadistic psychopathic local. Sounds intense. Option 2 is The Shining from 1980. A family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter where a sinister presence influences the father into violence, while his psychic son sees horrific forebodings from both past and future. And option number 3, talked about it a lot, The Evil Dead from 1981. 5 friends travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons.
My favorite kind of demons.
Always the best kind of demons.
Deadites.
All right. Well, I mean, I think we got to do The Shining, right? It's just it calls to
Upper
us.
echelon of horror. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've told Jess that I hope we have twins one day so I can use them to screw with our guests.
Yes.
Dude, I've got so many practical jokes. If we end up having twins, it's going to be epic. Anyway, I think we got to do
64 days a year.
What's that?
But that one day.
I don't know. We got to do Shining, especially since the sequel's coming out soon.
Really? There's a sequel to The Shining?
Dr. Sleep?
Dr.
That was
Sleep.
called? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Jack Torrance. I don't want to spoil it. I guess I won't spoil that. So Russell,
We'll call this timeliness.
Okay. All right. Very good. So look forward to that in our next week, The Shining from 1980. So thank you to Josh Evans for visiting with us today. Thank you.
Happy to do it. It's fun to see you guys again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
again, if you enjoyed the podcast today, go check out Josh and the Never Ending Story. Him, Bryan, and Russell do it, so you don't have to listen to me. And remember, all you lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, we invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. You can subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever else millennials get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That really helps out the show. Give us a good review. Give us a like on Facebook. We're starting to get more interaction, so that's always fun hearing what you like, what you don't like, whether you like the movie or not. Follow us on Twitter at movie_retro or email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Bryan?
Martini. Gin, not vodka, obviously. Stirred for 10 seconds while glancing at an unopened bottle of vermouth.
Very good.